So I was born in the year 1988, November 11th, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. A quick fact, Santa Fe, New Mexico is the oldest capital city in America. Anyway, so I was born a premature baby because my mom did a lot of drugs while she was pregnant. And on the day I was born, my mom was in the hospital drunk. I was the youngest and the last of my mom's kids. She had 2 kids before me, my brother Daniel and my brother John Paul, and both with 2 different guys. So 3 kids, 3 different men. Now I'm not saying this to disrespect my mom's memory in any way. I'm just letting you guys know how it is, how it was. So my brother Daniel, I don't even know how much years older than me he is, like 7 maybe. I don't kick it with him. I never talked to him or hung out with him or grew up with him. He was older than me, too much older. Well, my brother John Paul, he was only 1 year older than me, so we were close. So when I was born, we went straight into foster care. The state took us right away because my mom was a drug addict. She was also in and out of prison. She was a criminal. Just a product of her environment, like I became. Being in foster care, I don't remember much, but I do remember we were in more than one foster care. We had more than one foster family. I do remember one time they abused my brother and broke his arm, and he got a lawsuit and got a lot of money. He couldn't touch it till he was 21 though. But at least he was set up. I think it was like $45,000, maybe more. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I didn't know I was a kid. I just know by hearing people talk, my grandma and them, when they were alive. Anyway, we were in foster care for the first couple years of our life, and then my grandma and grandpa took custody, so we went to go live with them in the barrio off of Alto, 717 Don Felix. So I grew up there at my grandparents, me and my 2 brothers, and my grandma and grandpa, that was it. My mom, my uncle, and my auntie Donna were all on their missions on the streets, in and out of jail and prison, except for my auntie Donna. She never went to prison, just to jail. My uncle and my mom, Priscilla, were in and out though. I never got to really know my mom. I remember there was times when we were little kids, she would be banging on the door, and my grandma would just be yelling at her to leave. "Get the fuck out of here, Priscilla." And she would just be crying, "I just want to see my kids. I just want to see my kids." And my grandma would have to go open the door and tell her to get the fuck out of there, chase her away. I do remember this one time my brother Daniel was picking on me and my brother John Paul. He was like beating us up a little bit, picking on us. And his window was open in his room. And we heard my mom yell, "Hey, leave him alone." We're like, what the fuck? Well, it turned out she was sleeping outside. Well, anyway, we didn't know. The next morning we went to go look. The way we found out she was sleeping out there is the next morning we went to go look. Like, what the fuck? Why was mom out there? Went to go look and there was a sleeping bag. I remember seeing some canned foods there. My grandma wouldn't even let her own daughter sleep in the house. She had to sleep outside. My grandma was an evil woman. I don't know what was wrong with her. Maybe she went through a lot when she was young. I don't want to disrespect her memory, and that's not why I'm saying this. Me and my grandma never got along, but I do respect the woman that she was because she would demand respect, and that's why everybody respected her. She was mean, and she was, I say evil, but that's just because I don't know how else to describe her. But I'm sorry I used the word evil. I shouldn't use that. She was rough. She was hard. She was a hard person. She used to beat the shit out of us with rings on, punching. She wouldn't slap us. She wouldn't spank us. She would beat the shit out of us. Shit, you better ask somebody. My grandma was Louise Martinez. They called her Lulu. If you guys know, you know. Anyway, I remember my mom used to write us letters. She used to buy art and send it to us. Like, people would draw us pictures that she would buy, whatever. She would send it to us. She would always write us letters and we would write back. So we were in communication with my mom when she was locked up. My grandpa even took us to visit her a couple times in the Santa Fe prison when she was here. And then when she was in Grants, I remember we had a couple, like, good visits, trailer visits, conjugal visits. It was just me, my grandpa, and my brother. Actually, I think my great uncle went too, but we cut him off out of the family, so I didn't want to mention him. But we got to stay in the trailer. The first time was like 4 hours. We got to cook, we got to eat, we got to kick it like a family. And then the second time we went, it was like 8 hours. So I knew my mom mostly by visits, which were few and far in between, and a lot of letters. And when she would get out, she would pick us up here and there. I remember this one time we didn't even know she was getting out. We got out of school one day and our mom was there waiting for us to pick us up. We were in elementary at Gonzales Elementary. So she picked us up and we went to live with her. She had an apartment here on Airport Road at the San Rafael Apartments. She used to always leave me and John Paul there at night, and she would go and she would be gone for a few hours. We were used to it. She would always come back. I remember she would always make spaghetti, bomb-ass spaghetti. That's one thing that we remember about our mom. I remember all we had in our living room was a TV, not even a couch. We would sit on the floor. We would have to sleep on the floor. We didn't even have a bed, but my mom was making it work. Well, one night she left like she always did to go do what she did. She didn't want to take her kids, so she leave us at the house. We waited and waited and waited and waited, and she never came back. And the next morning, my grandpa came knocking at the door, and he came to pick us up and told us our mom got arrested. She had got arrested for whatever and got sent back to prison, so we were staying back at my grandma and grandpa's again. Life pretty much went on like this my whole life with our mom. She was in and out of prison. That's how our relationship was until she got out and died. The one time that she finally decided to do good, but things didn't go so well, and she went back to drugs. She died from it. When things ain't going so well, it's not good to just go to drugs, bro. Drugs will just ruin things. It'll make things worse. It will not only make things worse outside, like around you, it'll make things worse within you. You'll be all nervous, full of anxiety. Your thoughts will be going wild. I'm telling you, I know from experience. Always being on the run, having to look over your shoulder. I've cut my ankle bracelet off before. I've ran from multiple treatments. Every time I would get out of jail, I would just go straight on the run. Every time I got out of prison, I would just go straight on the run. I wouldn't even check in because I would play them. See, I didn't have nowhere to stay. My grandma wouldn't let me live there. I didn't have no other family that let me stay with them. So I didn't have a place to stay when I got out. So I'd put a fake parole plan, and then when they would let me out, I didn't have a place to go, so I wouldn't even check in. I would just disappear. When I was a juvenile, I used to run from so many treatment centers that they sent me to Salt Lake City, Utah. I was there for 10 months, Copper Hills in West Jordan. That's where I was when my brother got killed. I remember they called me to like this little rec room they had and told me I had a phone call because you could get phone calls every now and then from your family. They told me it was from my grandma. I was like, that has to be wrong. My grandma don't call me. They told me, no, it's from your grandma. So all of a sudden, I knew something was up. There had to be something wrong. Why would my grandma call me? So I got on the phone and she was just crying. John Paul's dead. I said, what? John Paul's dead. I said, how? They stabbed him. I said, who? She's like, I don't know. I just hung up the phone. Just remember, I kind of like went into shock. But I'll tell that full story in detail on a different video. So I just wanted to tell like the story of how I was born. I was born premature to my mom, who was on drugs throughout the pregnancy and drunk during the birthing. So they took me, put me in foster care. Me and my brother John Paul were in foster care for the first 2 or 3 years of our life. Then our grandma and grandpa took custody, so we went to live with them. And that was right by the boys club on Alto, on Maynard and Don Felix in the barrio. The old barrio. And so that's where I grew up. I grew up in the barrio. Irvin Street was the street next to mine. On the other side of the boys club, across the street was the 700 block, and the park I got married at, Barrio Park. I forget the real name. I've always called it Barrio Park. The one that Carlos Cervantes did all those paintings and shit, where the Cervantes mansion is. Well, we call it a mansion because it's a pretty nice house in the hood. And Carlos Cervantes is an OG. I shout out Carlos. He was in the Santa Fe prison riots of 1980, and he's always stayed solid. So, Carlos Cervantes, you already know, amor, puro respeto. I experienced a lot growing up in this side of town. I experienced a lot living on the streets, going to jail, going to prison, going to different jails, and going to different prisons. I've had a good journey. I'm going to tell my story little by little throughout these videos. Disclaimer though, any nicknames or gangs or anything like that I use will not be the real names. I will not use the real names, so I will make up names for those things. This is Tragedy. I'm out.